Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're looking at the totally fascinating story of football's ultimate outlier. I mean, when you think of a modern football superstar, you usually picture these child prodigies, right? Kids groomed in multi-million-dollar academies from the age of 6. But what if I told you the ultimate record breaker actually shattered that entire mold? He wasn't flashy, he certainly wasn't pampered, and he absolutely wasn't a teenage sensation. Yet, he somehow went on to break one of the most prestigious records in the entire history of sports. Okay, let's dive into this, because this is just wild. At the age of 20, the man who would eventually become the undisputed king of the FIFA World Cup wasn't playing in the Champions League. No way. He was actually playing amateur fifth-tier football. And, just to make ends meet, he was working full-time as an apprentice carpenter. Born in Opole, Poland, before moving to Germany as a kid, his whole trajectory is something that almost completely defies belief in our modern sporting era. Section 1. The Apprentice Carpenter, from Woodwork to World Cups.
So just look at the contrast here. On one side, you have the archetype of the modern football superstar, pampered early, flashy, maybe a bit image-obsessed. And then on the other side, you've got Miroslav Klose. He was a classic late bloomer, a humble former carpenter whose blue-collar beginnings completely shaped his entire mindset on the pitch. While modern scouts are out there scouring the globe for the next big thing at age 14, Klose was quite literally busy learning the carpentry trade. It really wasn't until Kaiserslautern noticed his raw, undeniable aerial power that he got his professional breakthrough. And man, he carried that ferocious work ethic right onto the pitch. Even as a veteran superstar, Klose was known to stay behind after those grueling training sessions just to pick up footballs and carry the heavy equipment bags for the team. He was basically the ultimate servant to the game.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what that grounded work ethic produced: mind-bending results. We're talking 71 goals in 137 caps for the German national team, making him their all-time top scorer. But honestly, here's the most magical stat of all. Across his entire 13-year international career, Germany never lost a single game in which Miroslav Klose scored, not even one. Furthermore, he's the only men's player in history to appear in 4 consecutive World Cup semifinals, ultimately culminating in him lifting the trophy in 2014. So, these aren't just great numbers, these are literally the numbers of an undefeatable legend. Section 2. The Penalty Box Predator, Redefining Football Efficiency. To really understand Klose's greatness, you have to realize he wasn't the guy who was going to smash a ball into the top corner from 40 yards out. That wasn't him. He was known as the goal fisher. He completely mastered spatial awareness, anticipation, and positioning. And that brings us to this staggering number: 16. All 16 of his record-breaking World Cup goals were scored from directly inside the penalty area. He never wasted energy. He just had this knack for finding little pockets of space that elite defenders completely failed to mark, arriving at the exact millisecond he needed to be there. I mean, you can imagine how utterly frustrating he must have been for these world-class center backs who thought they had him completely covered, only for him to just magically appear at the far post for a tap-in.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it breaks down those 16 goals, because it reveals his incredible versatility. You've got 7 headers, 8 with his right foot, and 1 with his left. So while he was obviously highly capable with his feet, his heading ability was truly out of this world. It's like he perfectly understood the exact trajectory of the ball, turning these really simple crosses into unstoppable, devastating finishes. In fact, if you compare the top World Cup headed goal scorers of all time, Klose sits completely alone at the top of the mountain with 7 goals. That actually surpasses even the great Gerd Müller, who has 5. And astoundingly, Klose scored 5 of those headers in a single tournament, the 2002 World Cup in Korea and Japan. That run actually included a hat trick of headers in an 8-0 win against Saudi Arabia. He is for sure the undisputed king of aerial timing and execution on the world's biggest stage. Section 3. A Gentleman of Football, Integrity over Tainted Victories. Let's slow the pace down for a second here, because what elevates Klose from being just a great athlete to a global role model is his astonishing moral compass. In a highly competitive sport where diving and, let's face it, bending the rules are unfortunately super common, Klose just operated totally differently. Let me tell you about a really gripping moment that captures this perfectly. Picture this. It's 2012. Klose is playing for Lazio against Napoli. Early in the match, off a corner kick, Klose scores to give Lazio the lead. His teammates are celebrating wildly, but replays clearly show he actually deflected the ball into the net with his hand. In a moment that literally shocked the stadium, Klose voluntarily walked right up to the referee and admitted the handball. The referee overturned the goal, and instead of being angry, the opposing Napoli players actually rushed over to pat him on the back and thank him for his honesty. He actively canceled his own team's goal to ensure fair play. Just incredible.
And what's amazing is that his honesty at Lazio wasn't just a one-off. Years earlier, while playing in the Bundesliga for Werder Bremen in a match against Nuremberg, he went down in the box and the referee awarded his team a penalty. But Klose immediately got up, walked over to the official, and explained that the defender hadn't actually fouled him. He had just slipped. So the penalty was canceled. Klose later said that winning a match that way simply felt wrong to him.
The impact of this kind of sportsmanship rippled throughout the entire football world. As former Inter midfielder Esteban Cambiaso put it, "We must honor this gesture. It is an example for all children to follow." Even former FIFA president Sepp Blatter publicly praised him as a proper player. And this matters immensely, guys. Klose proved that true greatness and ultimate success in sports require integrity, not arrogance or deceit.
Section 4. The World Cup record, the ultimate culmination.
Let's move to and see how this builds. Let's pick the energy back up and look at the absolute climax of his career. Tracking his relentless journey across 4 World Cup appearances reveals this ruthless consistency in chasing down the legendary Brazilian striker Ronaldo's all-time record. In 2002, he bursts onto the scene with 5 goals. In 2006, on home soil in Germany, he scores another 5 and wins the Golden Shoe. In 2010, in South Africa, he adds 4 more. And finally, in 2014 in Brazil, he scores 2. Over a 12-year period, at the absolute highest, most stressful level of international football, he scored at a blistering rate of 1 goal every 112 minutes.
And that journey reached its peak in one of the most famous matches in football history, the 2014 World Cup semifinal, Germany against the host nation, Brazil. In the 23rd minute of that monumental game, Klose found space in the box, had his first shot saved, but then calmly slotted home the rebound. It was his 16th World Cup goal. In an incredibly poetic twist, he officially surpassed Ronaldo's record while playing against Brazil, in Brazil. Germany, of course, went on to win that historic match 7-1, and just days later, Klose finally lifted the World Cup trophy.
His national team manager, Joachim Löw, summarized it perfectly, saying, "Miro is an institution, a role model. He has always remained modest and humble despite all his success. If you have scored the most goals in the history of the World Cup, you have had to earn it." His record definitely wasn't a fluke. It was meticulously built on a foundation of deep humility and an unmatched work ethic.
So the crucial point is that Miroslav Klose is the absolute textbook definition of an outlier. He completely differed from almost all of his peers. He was a quiet, honest, blue-collar worker who literally started out as a carpenter and ended up as the greatest goal scorer in the history of the world's biggest tournament. He redefined what an elite football striker should be, proving that you can be a ruthless tactician inside the penalty box while still being an absolute gentleman outside of it.
Which leaves us with this final thought for today's explainer. As football continues to evolve, getting faster, way more commercialized, and filled to the brim with image-obsessed superstars, will the beautiful game ever see a quiet, honest goal machine, quite like Miroslav Klose, ever again? It's a really fascinating question to ponder. Thank you so much for joining me to explore the blueprint of a true legend. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.